We've all heard the term toxic masculinity before, but what does that even mean? First thing that comes to mind for me is this notion that men shouldn't express emotion and especially not cry. I've had trouble with this. I've struggled with it at times in my life, not always, but when I have, it's manifested as either suppressing emotions or stacking shame, the emotion of shame, on top of any of the other emotions. I feel lucky in that I wasn't taught this directly by my parents, especially, my father. But I feel like, pick up a little bit of it, somewhat subconsciously, just from society in general. And it's ironic, really, because the message is that if you cry as a man, then you're weak. But in reality, it takes strength to process your emotions and allow them to play out. Stoicism has gotten a bad rap, in a way, because of this notion, right? Because people perceive it as a philosophy that says for men to be these emotionless robots. It couldn't be any further from the truth, because Stoicism promotes the idea of controlling what you can and accepting what you can't. Our emotions are under our control for the most part, but when they're not, we should accept that. Stoicism teaches us to live a virtuous life, which means being honest, especially with ourselves. And when we suppress and deny emotions out of fear of being viewed as weak or perceived as weak, then ironically, we are essentially manifesting the outcome that we are trying to avoid. In an iconic interview with Jordan Peterson, one of the audience members asked him, "What is the antidote to toxic masculinity?" And he responded perfectly by saying that the answer is responsible masculinity, which reminded me of the Spider-Man quote, "With great power comes great responsibility." Masculinity in both men and women manifests as a very powerful point A to point B mentality. Toxic masculinity couldn't be further from Stoicism. It seeks to take power and abuse the power for selfish purposes, right? Whereas responsible masculinity is stoic in that it seeks to earn power and then use that power to help others or the good of the whole of society. The irony is that when people take selfishly and abuse power, they just wind up hurting themselves in the long run. A good example that comes to mind is criminality. The mafia, the mob. Whenever anybody turns to crime, they may take power in the short term, but in the long term, usually it ends poorly. And even if it doesn't for them on an individual level, it makes society worse at large. One of the core tenets of Stoicism is to help others and live virtuously. So the idea that Stoicism is representative of toxic masculinity is really laughable. Another common misconception that I've seen with toxic masculinity is that if you think that it is generally and objectively a bad thing to be obese, then you're fat phobic, and that's toxic masculinity. I think this is absolutely ridiculous. And I think in all likelihood that idea, that notion is propped up by corporations who stand to benefit from the struggles of those who deal with obesity. If you're obese, you're going to be consuming more products, right? You're going to be consuming more food. And there's a lot of money in that. I believe it is a trait of responsible masculinity to want to be and to try to be a healthier individual. There's a reason that it is widely considered to be an attractive trait. Sure, yeah, it's aesthetic, but more importantly, it showcases discipline. It shows discipline, right? It takes discipline to be a healthy individual. If you want to become a better man or woman, if you want to improve society at all, then that starts with you, right? Taking responsibility, adding more responsibility to your life, and taking responsibility for your health is probably the best place to start, because how are you going to encourage or inspire anyone to be healthy if you yourself are not? And I don't think the answer is to just say, oh, well, it's okay. It's okay to be fat. It's okay to be obese. It's okay to be unhealthy. We should all just be nice to each other. And I'm not saying we shouldn't be nice to each other, but I am saying that we should take more responsibility for ourselves, for our health. We shouldn't give in to the corporations' propaganda trying to brainwash us into eating more all the time, being fatter, you know? I mean, that probably plays into big pharma as well. Hospitals are going to make more money at the end of the day if you're going to them more because you're not living a healthy lifestyle. The alternative to this is to chase pleasure and comfort endlessly and senselessly. And if you're trying to be more stoic, if you're trying to cultivate a stoic mindset, then this idea should be repugnant to you. And sure, you could argue that that doesn't sound like a very balanced lifestyle, right? Work and play. But at the same time, I could argue that we can all find great pleasure in expanding the scope of our responsibility and expanding the idea, essentially, of what we can do in the world. There's great pleasure to be found in that. This is essentially the point of this channel, to challenge both myself and my viewers to expand that scope in their lives through as many vectors as possible. Right? People don't grow in their comfort zones, right? But you and your comfort zone can grow if you get outside of it. So I challenge you to get outside your comfort zone in as many ways as possible. Don't waste time, right? Because we don't have very much of it. You know, memento mori, as I've said many times so far, remember death. We're going to die, so we should make a good time of it while we can. And that doesn't mean endlessly chasing pleasures and comfort. That means living a life of meaning, of value, you know, one that we can be proud of living at the end of it, whenever that may be. Today is day 30 of me challenging myself to post a video every single day on the topic of personal development. I'm trying to build a community. We're at 51 subscribers right now, and at 150 subscribers, I'm going to purchase a $150 ice tub, and I'm going to post a video of me taking the plunge for the very first time. So if being a part of a community that wants to help each other grow and learn in life interests you, please consider subscribing to my channel. Help me get to 150 subscribers so that I can get in that tub, sub for the tub, as I've been saying. If you liked this video, if you enjoyed this content, please go ahead and hit that like button, hit the bell for more. I hope you have a great, productive day and or night, and I hope tomorrow is even better. And remember, we are all going to die, so live your life to the fullest. Alrighty, bye-bye.